question is that the bill be read a second time, and I call the honourable member for Indi.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I am pleased to support the Water Legislation Amendment Sustainable Diversion Limit Adjustment Bill 2019, and today I would like to focus my remarks on the management of a central piece of water infrastructure in the Murray Darling Basin, specifically the management of the Hume Dam. Mr Deputy Speaker, in Indi, we follow a very clear process when addressing the issues of the electorate. When constituents raise issues, we have a commitment to represent their interests, to ask relevant questions, raise issues in Parliament, and to provide an opportunity where it's appropriate to resolve issues at the local level. So today I would like to share with Parliament an example of this process delivering in Indi practical and significant outcomes for landholders in the Murray Valley. And I acknowledge the presence of my neighbour and colleague, the Minister Farah, in-house today, and the Minister for Water and Agriculture. On this particular issue, we had a problem with the Hume Dam and flooding. We were able to resolve it locally in a very satisfactory way, and I'm delighted to acknowledge the work of the people who played a part in that. This year has been very wet in north-east Victoria. We've had significantly more rain than on an average year. And in October of this year, constituents who are landholders in the Murray Valley below the Hume weir came to see me with a very clear message regarding their concerns about the management of the Hume Dam. They made a strong case. The effects of water releases have been significant, and I've been deeply concerned about the long-term impact of these problems if they are not addressed. And it's important to note that I am not alone in having these concerns from the landholders. The member for Farah, Susan Lee, also received approaches from Murray River farmers and has acknowledged that there needs to be better communication. And I quote, "It's an NDBA decision. It's not a decision of government." But the member for Farah said, "I think there's an important information gap, so I'm committed to asking the MDBA to meet so that there can be more understanding on both sides." So the concerns were twofold. First, the communication to downstream landholders regarding dam releases from the Management Authority, the Murray Darling Basin Authority, was poor. And second, that there's a fundamental flaw in management of the airspace of the dam, which means that the storage of irrigation water comes at the cost of flood damage to farmers and to the environment. And these concerns were echoed in local media. Lack of management of the Hume Dam has turned what could have been a constrained flood into a catastrophic one. The fact that there is not enough airspace is beyond belief. Everyone in the Basin Authority has said everything that the Basin Authority has said has been proven wrong, and the management from the authority is incompetent and inexperienced. Or I'm not necessarily confident the modelling has been good enough to inform the communities downstream from the Hume Wall, particularly when you consider the inflows from the Keewal River. And that was from Mr Bill Tilley, the state member for Benambra, after observing sandbagging at Wodonga's Gateway village. And he added that we've been slow to react to advice from the state and local government authorities. So there's been much local discussion about this particular issue. The Murray Darling Basin Authority began increasing release from the Hume Dam in late August to retain some airspace in the dam, apparently releasing 34% of the dam's capacity in 3 weeks. The Murray Darling Basin Authority advised that flooding was inevitable. It was a natural phenomenon which couldn't be fully prevented by the dam, adding that, and I quote, "When conditions are very wet, the Hume Dam is high. As was the case, the dam can store no more water and therefore has only limited impact on the passage of a flood. It's the rain that caused the flood, not the dam." Minister Joyce also acknowledges that management of the dam is a complex issue and that, quote, "We can always be wise after the event," adding it is hard to anticipate what sort of airspace you need when you really don't have a conclusive idea of exactly how much is going to fall in your catchment and how much is coming in. Locals also know that the management of the dam is a complex issue, and Andrew Reynolds, the acting head of river management at the time, admitted that his organisation had been caught out by the record amount of September inflow. But it's not an issue that can be addressed or fixed by a single authority or an organisation. And it is for this reason that I invited representatives from the Murray Darling Basin Authority, Chair Neil Andrew, and David Deverman, General Manager, along with representatives from the Bureau of Meteorology and Water New South Wales, to meet with myself and representatives of the Murray River Action Group and landholders in my electorate to a roundtable meeting on Tuesday the 1st of November in Wodonga. For the very first time, those responsible for water management and information gathering were sitting around the same table with affected landholders in a facilitated and, dare I say, relatively ordered meeting. This meeting delivered what people were asking for, which was a chance to explain their concerns directly to and hear the explanation from the people making the decisions at the Murray Darling Basin Authority. But more than that, it provided an opportunity for them to suggest how things could be improved. The landholders of my region have years of experience and knowledge, and there is clearly an opportunity for them to provide factual, practical first-hand advice to the managing authorities to assist in decision-making processes. The meeting was and contained very practical suggestions. There was robust discussion. But having the right people in the right room at the right time meant we walked away with some very practical steps to finding a solution. There was a view held among local landholders that the advice from government agencies was, compared to previous years, lacking in regularity and detail, and landholders relied on their own experience to prepare. So I would like to thank particularly Water New South Wales and the Murray Darling Basin Authority for their commitment in response to these concerns, to convene a working group to review the early warning systems and identify some practical steps to ensure timely and accurate communication to all landholders. And while it was clearly acknowledged the provision of timely and accurate communication to landholders is an area that needs further development, I would like to recognise the excellent work done by Joe Davis and his team at the Hume weir. These people work around the clock to monitor conditions and provide advice. And for all that on behalf of me and all the landholders downstream, we thank you. We appreciate what you've done, we appreciate your dedication, and we are grateful for the work that you have done for us. I would also like to thank Neil Andrew for committing to bring together the Basin's official committee, the Murray River Action Group, and along, I hope, with a member for Farrer and myself, to ensure that asset protection, irrigation water, flood mitigation and environmental protection are not mutually exclusive when managing the amount of water in the Hume Dam. And I do appreciate that Mr Andrews points out the dam was built for the purpose of irrigation and protecting irrigators' water. The dam was built for the provision of irrigation, and protecting irrigators' water is listed as a higher priority for the MDA in running Lake Hume than preventing flood events downstream. And he also said that current regulations do not allow the water level to purposefully drop below 97% when planning for rain. So when water inflows no longer occur and water outflows are needed for irrigation demand, and the dam's not full when you're running into a drought, the authority would be even in greater trouble. So we need to acknowledge that the rules that govern how airspace is managed have been in place for some time now, and I really think it's timely that we review these rules. It is these rules that are the basis of the controversy of the discussions. How much is too much before we let the water out, and how much do we need to let go at one time? The decisions on these rules will rest with the committee representatives from federal government, from Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia and the Queensland Government. And while I won't be an advocate at the meeting, I will be very pleased to be a facilitator to ensure that there is win-win for irrigators, landholders and the environment. And in conclusion, I would like to say how proud I am to be in this House and to represent the interests of my community. I was very proud to be able to facilitate this important meeting. I am proud of the outcomes of the meeting and that they will result in better communication between government agencies and landholders. I'm very proud of my staff and grateful to them for all the work that they do, with their commitment, their loyalty, their dedication and their organisation ability. And I'd particularly like to acknowledge Georgina Curtis in the House today and thank her for her work. I'm proud to be of practical service to my community. And on that note, I'd like to draw attention to the young people in the House. I understand you guys are from Yea, also part of my electorate. It's great to have you here and welcome, and I look forward to meeting with you after I finish this speech. I'm proud of the landholders in the Murray Basin, and particularly members of the Murray River Action Group, especially the executive, who work in a voluntary capacity and do such good work, to Mari Dunn, Secretary, to Richard Sargood, President, Greg Lumbry, Vice President, for all your team, for your proactive, pragmatic and tenacious approach to resolving issues. And I'm grateful and appreciate the work of Murray Darling Basin, Water New South Wales, the Bureau of Meteorology and the members of all my community for their goodwill and tolerance in what was a very difficult time. And in conclusion, it is timely to review the rules that govern how airspace is allocated in the Hume weir and how that water is used. I am optimistic for the future and for our ability to work in a cooperative fashion to resolve these issues in a timely and a manner which meets the long-term needs of the landholders, the irrigators, the people of Albury-Wodonga and the authorities that we work for. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy.